I'd like to tell you about a story I read this week, and I thought it was a good one. Evidently, there was, years ago, a time when Albert Einstein was giving a lecture on physics at Princeton University. And they have there, Princeton has there, a seminary as well, with a lot of theological students. So anyone was welcome to the lecture. So he was up there and he rattled on for an hour of physics and relativity and everything, all this stuff. And at the end of it, one of the seminarians stood up and asked him a question. He says, "Professor Einstein, may I ask a question?" And he said, "Certainly, son. What is your question?" And you got to understand, after the question was asked, Einstein fired his answer back just within a heartbeat. There was no hesitation whatsoever. The question the seminarian asked to the great professor was, what can science, the kind of science you understand, what can science teach us in the ministry? His answer immediately back was humility. Humility. Too many preachers are like Tom Chandler. He's going to be up there telling stupid stories and waving his arms around, and when actually you should be on your knees in your prayer closet quietly begging mercies of God. He says, "Are you so humble?" And he says, "Let me tell you something. No man in my profession, in my science, in my understanding of physics can wake up any given morning and stare into the vastness of this universe, trying to make sense out of something we'll never understand, and not be humble about it. The only thing I can say with any assurity as I stand in front of you today is that I don't understand how the physics of the universe work. Not yet, anyway." Now, this is coming from the mouth of the man that we consider the greatest scientist in our age. The greatest thing science can teach you as a minister is humility. I stand each morning before the vastness of the universe. You stand before a God which has no beginning or end, whose height and depth and width and, like Paul says, passes all our understanding. How can you not be humble in front of that? Jesus spoke a parable to those who considered themselves so self-righteous. He was talking to the priests, basically. And they probably got aggravated when he told the parable. He says, "Let me tell you a story, a parable. Remember, it only points out truth. Doesn't create it, just points it out. What simply is. 2 men went to the temple to pray. One came up to the front, stood before the altar, said, 'God, I thank you, I'm not like that piece of trash in the back. Because I give everything of my tithe to you. I say my prayers every day. Oh, I fast. I do everything right. I even sing better than most people.' But that guy in the back, he's just a piece of societal trash. He's a tax collector, for crying out loud. He takes our money and gives it to the Romans to oppress us. You are lucky to have me." That's basically what he's saying to God. You are lucky to have me. I am all that in a big bag of chips. Whereas the man in the back couldn't even lift his head, couldn't even lift his eyes up to God. Look, God's calling right now. Couldn't even lift his eyes to heaven. And he said, "Lord, be merciful to me, a sinner." Wow. Jesus said, who left that sanctuary that day justified? We're going to talk about that. That's a powerful parable that Jesus taught. The priests were furious with him. That's when they grabbed him up and tried to push him off a cliff again. Who went down that day justified in the eyes of God? We're going to talk about that in just a minute, but I know how well y'all sing, so we're going to sing one more time.